Awesome. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for spending your maybe lunch hour with us today. My name is Sarah Pellegrino. I am the Customer Success Manager for WellnessSpace brands, including Hydro Massage, Cryo Lounge, and Relax Space. I am thrilled to welcome you all to this month's webinar, Club Design with Wellness Spaces in Mind. This is a trend that has been here for a while. It is so hot right now, and wellness and recovery simply just are not going anywhere. So I am thrilled to have with me today two incredible experts in this space, Mr. Mike Feeney and Jacob Guajardo. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over. Mr. Feeney, would you like to introduce yourself and give us a little background?
I'm Mike Feeney. I've been in the industry since 1990. I've worked for a number of big brands did a number of build outs over the last 30 plus years, probably over 2,000 clubs worldwide, and currently am still a gym owner and part of a number of big brands. And one of the focuses today is definitely on recovery. So I've seen a lot over the last 30 plus years, and hopefully I can give some good insight.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again for joining us. Jacob, how about you, sir?
Hi, like Mike, I've been in the industry 35 years. I own a business in Rhode Island called Gym Spaces Design and Consulting. Over those 35 years, I've gone from anything from being a specialty fitness retailer to working for a catalog company and working for their facility design department there. And then, of course, moving to a different functional training company and working with them in facility design as well. So moving from being a salesperson into owning my own business about just under 2 years ago, where I'm now in charge of drawing and designing wellness spaces, big box gym, and the like. It's actually one of my renderings right there in that picture. So thank you, Sarah.
Figured you might like that. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for the introduction. And you took the words right out of my mouth there, Jacob. This picture right here that I know you all can see, this is just a rendering of what is one of many options of a wellness space, right? How we envision it. So in order, before we jump into our conversation, I'd love to hear how you both would define a wellness space in a fitness setting. So Mike, I'll pass it to you first.
Well, first, I don't just call it wellness. I think that we get very narrow-minded in what we're trying to call it. So it's relax, recover, wellness to me, because there's a bunch of components that we try and incorporate. I mean, listen, if you're going to do it today, it's going to be, 2,000 square feet at a minimum. It's going to be as close to the front desk as you can get it. It's going to be a lot different than the rest of your club. It's got to have, a great feel, great lighting. It's got to be mood centric. So there's a number of those things that are much different than what we would call our normal club environment of today, or even when we first started doing relax, recover, wellness spaces, because it's so much bigger today than it was even 5 years ago.
Awesome. Thank you. Jacob, how about you?
Agreed, Mike, and I like that relax, recovery, wellness. It's a great slogan, great lead in there. And I think offline we were talking about how far we've come with this topic specifically, where before in gyms, big box gyms, corporate gyms, vertical market, you name it, a ballet bar, a couple yoga blocks, and a mat, that was your stretching, recovery, wellness space, where that was separate than your cardio area, your strength area. And a gym could say, a big box gym or small box, whatever, they could say, that's our recovery area now. And that's not good enough anymore, right? Brands like WellnessSpace brands have raised the bar on what recovery, relaxation, wellness can be. So to answer your question, Sarah, I don't know what we're going to call wellness anymore. I'm excited to see what the next phase will be. And I think that's one of my jobs is WellnessSpace brands keeps pushing me to say, hey, envision something different. Like Mike said, put the space at the front, right? Right now, as we're talking, some spaces are still left in the back. Some are on Main Street, which I hope that we dive into more. But to answer your question, I don't know, but I'm excited to see where it goes.
I love that. Ever changing, right?
Yeah.
That's great. Wonderful. What I would like to move forward with is just kind of our discussion when we talk about wellness space, recovery areas, things of that nature. You know, you have a new build, so an owner or operator that is just building a new facility, or which I'm assuming is probably more our audience today, existing fitness businesses, they have a space and they are looking within that space for an area to make a wellness space, right? So we're going to start with new builds and just talk about that for a little bit. So Mike, what I would love to know, and you kind of alluded to it a little bit in the beginning, but I would love to know if you were to build a brand new club today, what would the wellness space look like? Where would it be and what would be in it?
So definitely at least 2,000 square feet. It definitely needs to be, close to the front desk, and for a number of reasons. There's two ways that you're going to design these. They're going to be what I call self-service, or they're going to be attendant based, meaning there's going to be someone who works for the club and they're in there all the time. Either one of those need to be close to the front desk, because if it's a self-service model, that front desk staff needs to be able to manage something. If something needs to be reset, if a customer needs help on it. So you should keep that in mind in your layouts. I mean, the things you got to keep in mind, power. If you look at a new club that you're going to do, you're going to have cryo lounge and the hydro lounge. You're going to have human touch massage chairs. You're going to have human touch zero gravity chairs. You're going to have Normatec boots connected to that. Then you're going to have infrared saunas. You're going to have red light therapy. You might have tanning. You're going to have treatment tables, hyper ice. If you're a attendant driven model, you're going to have cryotherapy. So all these things, they take a ton of power. So in the early days when we didn't have treadmills in the clubs, and we went back and said, we got to start adding treadmills to clubs. And then we had to add this circuit for every treadmill that went in. The same thing's going to happen to you in recovery. So be aware is that your power is going to be critical. So location, the power requirements, mood. The mood in the room is key. What are you going for? And I say this to anybody who's looking to do this. You better know three things. How am I going to market it? How am I going to implement it? And how am I going to monetize it? If you ask yourself those three questions and you have answers, you'll be good. But if you don't know the answers to those with your brand, you're going to be stuck just like adding another piece of cardio that you don't have to do anything with. And your members you're not going to get them in there and get them on everything.
Such a great point. And if you know the answer to those three questions, it'll really help you with your layout and where it should be as well. That's great.
Yeah.
Jacob, what are some considerations that owners and operators need to be thinking about when building a new space, so a new build situation?
New builds, it's exactly what Mike said. To further along more of the architecture, it would be proper ventilation, right? Making sure that these units have the circulation that they need because they're doing multiple modalities, right? So making sure that it's well ventilated. The other would be making sure that it follows all the rules of ADA compliancy, right? And I'm speaking to the domestic crowd, not to the international crowd right now, because I have very unique conversations with them in regards to spacing. It's very, very challenging over there with space. But domestically, we need to follow those same rules, as Mike was pointing out. With, when you bring it back in the day, when you brought a treadmill in, you need to make sure that we could shove as many things in the room as possible. But to me, that's not wellness, right? That's not relaxation. That's not recovery to me. In these spaces of wellness, relaxation, and recovery, it's making sure that everyone is included. So we have that level of inclusivity to come in so that we're meeting those egresses properly. And so someone can move around the space without feeling confined, because I'm not going to relax. I'm definitely, as a designer, I'm not going to relax if I'm right up next to someone and he's doing cryo and I'm doing hydro and I can hear him breathe and it's just way too close, right? So I would say make sure, as Mike pointed out, minimum 2,000. But to me, let's measure out the space together, right? And the benefit of what my job is that I get to move things that are 2,000 pounds. I get to move them in 3D virtual spaces, and they don't weigh anything anymore to me. I can move them around 10 different ways, and then I can point out, it's just too close, right? After we defined the circulation, the power requirements, and the lighting and the mood, is the spacing proper? You know, did your architect allocate enough space to this design?
That's so helpful. Thank you, Jacob. Just kind of along those lines, you know, Mike, I'll pass it back to you, but what are some common mistakes or just missteps that you've seen owners and operators take when trying to put in a wellness space?
They don't have a plan. They don't have a plan. They're just going in there thinking, I've got to do this because competition has it. Well, the competition has probably answered the 3 questions. So they probably are marketing it the right way. They're implementing it the right way. They're monetizing it. You have to have a plan going into this. It's not, like I said, just adding more exercise equipment in the club where you don't have to do a lot. This is something that you have to get your staff involved in. If you put these kinds of spaces in your clubs, you better make sure that everyone on your staff has been on every piece before you open, because members are going to ask questions and they're going to ask it to anybody. And you better have a staff ready to answer the questions and feel comfortable saying, come on, let me show you. I think that's the biggest mistake that people make. And then they undersize it. They say, well, I'm going to do my recovery area and I'm going to put in 1 hydro chair and 1 tanning bed. And then they say, wow, this is pretty good, but I'm getting complaints because no one can get on the hydro chair anymore. So I need another one. And now they've got to expand the space, and that never went in, you know, ahead of the game. So if you're looking at it, have a plan that says, here's what I'm going to do today. Here's what I can do tomorrow. So if I need to expand the space.
Brilliant. Thank you. Jacob, anything to add to that?
No, it's a fantastic point, and I'll raise my hand and say I can help everyone on this call with that plan. Okay, so if y'all don't know my website, go to it. I'll be happy to help. Okay, but before we digress, I would. What was the question again? No, just kidding. I think some of the mistakes right now, and I'm going to put my foot in my mouth, which I do a lot, but it's 4 points. As Mike was pointing out, some people don't bite deep enough into their commitment for this new genre, right? For this new, and it's not new, but I'm using that as a new. They're not biting deep enough. They're not making it big enough. They're not committing their revenue and their time and their education towards wellness and recovery and relaxation. And here's my point. It was a racquetball court. It doesn't overnight magically become a wellness space just because you say so, right? Just because we put a sign up and say, this is our new wellness area. It's not the point. The point is that, like Mike said, there has to be a plan for this space, right? If we really think about from a common sense standpoint, racquetball court was meant for racquetball use, and we all know where that went, but it was a fantastic thing, but everyone's converting them. Racquetball courts became spin rooms. I say this because I designed hundreds of spin rooms that were the size of racquetball courts, and it didn't fit perfectly. And I don't think wellness spaces are going to fit perfectly into a rack. Now it can, but you need to bring in other aspects. There we go back to the first question. Where's the electricity? There's no electricity in a racquetball court except for high in the ceiling where the lights were, right? Maybe that one light switch, but we have to now run electricity to these racquetball courts. And these racquetball courts weren't conveniently at the front of the gym where Mike pointed out necessarily. That needs to be up there. They're stuck way in the back or in the basement or on the second floor, wherever. They're just not convenient. So I would say, as Mike pointed out, have that plan. Reconsider every space before you just put a sign on that wall and say, it's our new wellness space. And contact me if you need help with that.
Yeah, great advice for new builds and existing, right? That's awesome. Thank you both. And, you know, Jacob, you just know my segues here, my friend. We're gonna move along forward into talking about, again, what I feel is probably the majority of our audience and our listener base today is those operators that they have existing businesses and they are looking at the racquetball court and saying, wow, that would make a great wellness space. So I just kind of wanted to pitch this out to you guys. And what other spaces in an existing club are you seeing people make wellness spaces? Mike, you want to go first?
Well, first I'll say racquetball court's tough because you've got one of your points you're trying to get in this wellness recovery area is this mood. So you got to tone down the volume, and those rooms are very noisy. So you've got to drop a drop ceiling in it. That means you got to change the sprinklers. That means you got to bring more power in. Those walls are solid walls, so the sound just bounces off of them. They've all got hardwood floors, and the right way to do it is that then I'm gonna have to take that out. So it's really tough to do a racquetball court. Ones that are much better, kids clubs. You know, ever since COVID, kids clubs have struggled in a number of clubs, and a number of groups even closed them, and they're just kind of sitting there. So they're good. You know, it's typically up front. It's typically got water in it already because it's got a bathroom or a sink. It's typically got a ceiling in it already with a grid system in it, so you can quiet the room down a lot. So that's usually a good space. I think ride rooms are another one that I see that are pretty good because they've done some things already that you would do going to recovery. They've changed the mood of that room. They've changed the lighting of that room. Hopefully they've dropped a ceiling in it, things like that. So that's what I see.
That's awesome. Those are three really good ones. Jacob, any others that you've seen transition over?
I haven't seen them transition over just yet, but in theory, I would say that the most unique designs that I've been working on lately are renovating Main Street. Okay, and what I mean by that is that some people are taking out a whole row of treadmills, right? Glassing it off, and inside they're putting their wellness space. I think it's a cool idea. I don't know if it's gonna make any money and these are to Mike's points earlier, right? I don't know if it's going to be manned or unmanned yet. And those are those secrets that you pointed out we should know. But I do like the concept of moving things, because I did work for a couple of functional training companies that their product was kind of an afterthought, right? It was stuck in the back room where it was technically a group fitness room, but then they just kind of threw some functional training stuff back there and said, "Oh, this is our new functional training room." And I think that's what these facilities are doing with their mindset comes from, oh, we could just repurpose, right? Let's just move those treadmills out. Now let's just make it wellness. Again, there's the sound, there's the mood, there's the lighting, there's electrical, there's the plumbing, right? All these products that are made by WellnessSpace brands are wonderful, but they still need things like internet and the things that we mentioned already. So I don't know if it's going to work out, but I have been asked multiple times to do very unique situations. This image that you have up actually is fictitious. I built a patio room and put in some nice flooring, some mood lighting and such. And these are, I think, for me, these are inspirational ideas. These are ideas that people can start getting the ball rolling as you approach the decision makers to say, hey, listen, this is a space similar to what we have. Let's retrofit it. But in all actuality, it doesn't exist.
I love it. I personally love the natural.
the quote unquote natural light. Yeah, absolutely.
That's right. Your fake natural light. Awesome. Well, we've talked a lot about, repurposing rooms, and it's a room and it has a door, right? What about owner or operator that says, I am going to put my wellness space and a hydro massage bed and maybe some compression boots right in my entranceway or right on the way to the cardio floor? How do we feel about these open spaces?
Listen, I've done it because I've done it all, and I've made a million mistakes. So don't think that everything that I've done has been successful. I do things because To Jacob's earlier point, some people are just putting their toe in the water. I jump in. So you got to be fully committed to something that you're going to try and do. So adding the stuff to the lobby, there are some things you can do that with, and there are some things it just doesn't work. And it's usually because it puts somebody in an uncomfortable position and they're just not as relaxed as they want to be in that space. So yeah, I can do Normatec compression in the lobby. I can do, I can do a massage chair in a lobby. But when you start getting some of the other things, you really want to have a space that's designed for relax, recover, wellness. And I'll be honest with you, I think that you're better off having that space enclosed. It's got to be visible, but it needs to be enclosed so that we can just tone down the music, have a different setting in there. Hopefully you have enough space where you can put a small turf area in there and put a ballet bar in there and actually do real stretching in there and do, more than just getting on one piece of equipment inside the room.
Very good point. Very good point. Jacob, do you see a lot of those open spaces?
Well, surprisingly, I was asked to do a very unique project, and you can see it on, again, this is another plug, and I apologize for doing it, WellnessSpace brand's website. They put together a brochure called Ultimate Guide to Wellness Spaces, and it was a hospitality edition. And it was really focused on the traveler and the facility, this not being a club, but actually a hotel, I'm assuming mid to high end hotel, where we added a hydro massage in the lobby. And y'all can see that on their website, but I think it came out really unique. Their focus was to get the traveler as relaxed as immediately as possible, right? While someone's checking in, someone else is doing the hydro massage. To Mike's point, yeah, maybe it's a little too intimate to be in a hotel lobby, but I just think it was a project that kind of, pushed the envelope a bit. So, and of course, all of these modalities are used at trade shows every weekend. The HyperIce product is used at on the edge of football fields, in open. But this is not the conversation we're having. We're having the conversation about an actual wellness space that someone bit deeply into and committed their spaces to recovery and relaxation.
Love it.
Yeah,
So we chatted.
I would much rather take that open space that I have in a lobby and extend the space I'm going to put relax, recover, and wellness in.
Noted.
So listen, our lobbies are typically too big, and we're not doing much in our lobbies. We're trying to check people in, and you're trying to check in 1,500 to 2,000 people a day, and we're trying to make it easier for people to use technology to check in. So they're coming and going like a freeway. So I'm just not a big fan of, I'd rather have a smaller lobby and do other components bigger.
Love that. Great point. Thank you. So logistics, when we take an existing space and we change it into a wellness, relaxation, recovery area, we've mentioned electrical, we've mentioned internet. Mike, you mentioned the sound and the lighting. How about like TVs and smells and like what else are we missing? Is there anything else that you guys have seen people just ignore that just does not make it really the best wellness space it could be?
There's a fine line between doing things and adding other things that are a monthly cost. And no gym owner, believe me, I know this, wants to add, another $50 here, another $100 here, another $180 here. It's like, wait a minute, I can't add these reoccurring costs to everything I do. So adding these extra smells and things like that, you don't think about it, but it starts to add up. So that's tough. Yeah, I think people are doing a pretty good job. I think TVs have a place in it. I think that when you look at the interior of one of these spaces, there's separate areas, different things going on. This is a more calmer area over here on the left. This is a stretching area back here on the right. This is, so TVs work well in an area where I'm sitting there getting some kind of treatment and I want to be preoccupied.
Yeah, great point.
But no sound, no sound. You should have the FM receivers in there, have them use their earbuds to connect to it.
Right.
Don't have the sound on, even if the game's on. It's like, you know what, you want to connect? Here's, yeah.
Yeah, it all plays into the mood, right? The relaxing feeling that you're trying to foster there.
Yeah.
That's great.
I think to that point, there's already a shift in play, which is against what Mike's saying right now. And I don't want to disagree with Mike by any means, but there's companies, friends, partners of mine that they do have TVs that they have programming in them that are self-led, and it is, for lack of a better word, I don't want to use this word incorrectly, but they're therapeutic, or they're just something that you can focus on while you're doing your compression work, or while you're doing your Normatec boots. And I think it's going to continue down that road because we're so screen led, right? From our phones to our computers to this webinar. Right now, even when we're trying to relax, that TV is in front of us. And if it has the right image and the right feeling, and you have your headphones on, as Mike pointed out, I think it can be a good device. The pod, the wellness pod by our sponsor today, WellnessSpace Brands, it's really cool to see all of these images go by you, and then the aromatherapy that comes out of it. And you just kind of get engulfed, and for a split second you forget, wow, I can just relax, right? So I think it's going to change. Probably not what Mike and I want right now, but it's going to change, and there's people out there that are doing it. So
Yeah.
I do think there will become a more meditation or area inside of recovery. But again, I think it's a component inside there that we need to do more soundproofing, and we really want that's because you want to get the full experience of it. You just don't want to put that in the middle of one of these spaces. There's just too much going on. So, but I do think that meditation, quiet, take the 15 minutes out of your day and just find yourself.
Absolutely.
Mike, you don't have 15 minutes in your day. You're a busy man.
I love that.
Sarah, just to point out something, thank you for having this image up, but I was asked to do this project. I don't necessarily agree with everything in this image, and I'm sure even Mike would pick it apart as well with an eye. To have a plunge right next to percussion tools, right next to a cryo, right next to, I think it's just, to me, it's too many modalities and it's such a small space. But I had to do it because I was asked to do it, and I consulted accordingly. But if I were a Mike Feeney building a big gym, I probably would allocate more space than this for sure.
I think that because I agree. I mean, it's a small space, and I think you're trying to do a demonstration on here's the things that you could do. But I do think that there are a number of people I deal with that just say, I only want this and this. And they say point blank, the reason is I know how to do that, and I know how to do that well. So I'm going to have 6 hydro chairs in there, and I'm going to have 2 cryo lounges in there, and then I'm going to have my tanning in there. But I do it really, really well. My team is really connected to it, and I'm going to have tanning, and that's it. So you've really got to make sure that all these components that you're putting in, you really have a plan. How are you going to market? How are you going to implement it? And how are you going to monetize it? So, because if you look at Plunge, great product, and cold therapy, we would all agree has been around forever. And it's our job to find a way to bring that to the customers, to the gym person. So how do we do it? And, you know, that's a great product to try in rooms, but you've got some issues. You need a drain, you need tile, you need water. So there's all these things in the build out process that you got to make sure that you cover.
Absolutely. And yes, you guys are correct. I was trying to pick a wide array of larger spaces, smaller spaces, showing our audience what they can do with what they have. So yeah.
You're doing a good job. You led us right to that question. Good for you.
Perfect timing for this picture to be. Awesome. All right. Well, Mike, we are getting to your 3 questions. I loved those so much that I made them a whole segment of our conversation today. So I do want to start with how you would market relax, recovery, and wellness. Perfect world scenario.
Perfect world scenario is that two worlds. One is a brand new club. One is an existing club that you're going to add that to. So a brand new club, it's really simple. Every person that comes in and signs up has to go through Relax, Recover, Wellness. They have to get on something. If you don't do that, they're not going to know. And there has to be a follow-up to that. That you need to give it away initially so that people understand the value of it, and then you can base your memberships around it as to access to the space. If you're doing a rebuild, so you're going to add it to an existing club where you already have 4,000 members, your goal is to go after those 4,000 members because they're going to be your initial users. You need to get 1,000 of those members to use this space every time they work out. And then you can monetize it by having different membership base points.
Love that. If an owner operator has an existing club and the only space that they have to dedicate to wellness and relaxation is, let's say, tucked maybe in the back, okay, not in a main or heavily trafficked area, what are some creative ways they could specifically market that space, where it is and what's in it?
Well, it's going to be based on visibility from the key points in the club. And what I mean by that is that for something to be visible in a club, that means people have to be staring at it all the time. So if I'm on a chest press, I'm looking at that. That means it's visible. If my back is to it, it's not visible. So it may mean that you have to turn your equipment. It may mean you may have to make changes in your club so that it's more oriented, that people are going that direction. And then it's going to be about the appearance of the outside of it from a graphic standpoint, just the wow factor of getting people to say, what is that? And then it's getting those 4,000 members, get them all in there for free so that they can see it, they can experience it, and hopefully word of mouth is gonna help it. But it's much more of a challenge.
Yeah, I guess I would just add one thing to that, if I could, Sarah, is in some of my designs, I've uniquely used the flooring to get and direct the user to a given space. And again, not to be hokey, but you could call it the wellness path, right? As Mike's saying, educate all your team up and say it. Are you on the wellness path? Have you seen the wellness path? The wellness path directs you to our wellness, relaxation, and recovery center. And that's easy. You know, as a designer that has done 2D and 3D drawings, the building inspector loves to see an allocated floor plan that directs the user in and out of the building, right? Per fire code, someone needs to know how to get out of this place fast. And if your drawing has 2 different colors of flooring, and that flooring can be rubber flooring for sure, you just change the color and go at same height, no problem. Or if you use wood flooring as your wellness path and rubber on the other, and along that path you have proper signage, that's one way that I think that my designs have been well received, because they're directed paths, they're usable paths.
I love that it's permanent, right? Because you talk about signage, and obviously we have pull-up banners. You could use those that are this way to wellness or this way to relaxation. You can put signs on the wall, right? But I like that the floor differentiation would be a permanent path. I like that.
Yeah, and that's one of the things about biting deep into the design and into your commitment for these spaces, right? Rarely was a time that you went into a facility and you knew exactly where to go for, let's say, spin or racquetball or the swimming pool or whatnot. But if you have a floor pattern indicating, telling you where to go, it's just easier. It's an easier sell.
Awesome. All right, so we'll move into implementation of the wellness, recovery, relaxation spaces. And Mike, I'll put this back on you first, but I do kind of want to sneak access in here, because when we look at the wellness space as a whole, is it open? Is it open to everyone? And then your machines have scanners if you're controlling the access, right? So just kind of like, what have you seen be really successful when we are controlling access? Let's use that as the example. What's the best scenario if you're limiting who can use it?
Well, I think that's still evolving because, initially it was all open, and, you controlled it at the front desk, turn on lounge number 3, turn on bed number 2. And it was open, and it didn't have ceilings, and it had low walls, kind of, so it looked very open. And we've gotten into this, let's enclose it a little bit more. And so you started, let's put ceilings in, and then let's raise the walls. And now let's close off the front with glass and have the member be able to scan in, so that they can scan in, and then everything is, they can use whatever they want, as much as they want, except for tanning. Law only allows you to use it once a day. So that, I think that's the direction it's going. And I think it ties in more with entries into clubs. You're seeing a number of brands that are putting entry systems in, because the generation now, everyone's on their phone. It's just a big part of them. And there's palm scans that work now. So there's a lot of ways that people can access the different rooms. Yeah, I think that's where it's going, but we'll see. Yeah, I still think it's evolving, and it's going to change over the next 6 months and year. And
It's surprising, Mike, is that I think the end game is to get the gym family right with wellness, relaxation, and recovery. But there's other markets like universities and colleges that are implementing wellness spaces, and they're wide open, right? They're literally grasping onto any space that they have to put in the percussion tools, as you mentioned earlier, to put in the hyperized tools, and they need it portable. They want it to be, let's fold up the chair and put it away, because we're going to have a concession stand here at night for one of the sporting events. So in the gym world, we have to remember that there's other wellness spaces happening outside of that gym world. And I do want to make the gym space perfect as we evolve it, knowing that the other markets are pulling it along as well, because of this, because of the awareness, really, that companies like WellnessSpace brands and the Hyperices and other modalities out there that are just pushing the envelope. Now, we never saw before a commercial during a football game for percussion tools, and now we have 2 companies competing for that same space. So it's really interesting how this is going. I just drew something this week with for a university that, again, they're just taking this small to medium-sized area. In daytime, it's kind of like Batman. During the day, they're this, and at night, they're this. So during the day, it's going to be wellness and recovery, and at night, they're going to be selling whatever.
Awesome.
I find that that some of the different projects that I've done, some of them don't care about monetizing it. This is what we charge. Everybody gets access to everything. So your design or your availability, your mindset changes. I deal a lot with, low cost models. It's $10 a month or $14 a month, and you can't have those 6,000 members have full access to all your recovery components because you couldn't build a big enough one. So a lot of this goes around, how am I going to monetize it? If I don't have to monetize it, my design is going to be different. If I do have to monetize it, I'm going to want to control it more, because I can't monetize it if I can't control it.
Absolutely. And let's unpack that, Mike. If we're monetizing the wellness and relaxation space, what is the most effective way that you have seen fitness businesses do that? Is it that membership upgrade where you get access to it?
I think right now it is that, yes, it's an increased membership rate and they have personal accessibility to it. Because let's be honest, this space that we've created, this is expensive. Don't kid yourself. Like, you could spend a couple $100,000 just on this area. But if you had 2,000 members paying double the rate, you could do the math. It pencils out.
Thank you for saying that. Yeah, it's so true. That's awesome. Very cool. All right. So I want to know both of your opinions on whether you feel that wellness, relaxation, rejuvenation areas are becoming a standard in health clubs. Jacob, what do you think?
I think the competition deems it so, right? Everyone needs the next best thing. And again, if you're a sports performance facility operator, you're already doing your own recovery work and protocols and so forth. But you have some high-priced tools in there. I know you do. I've seen your facility. I designed your facility. You have the tools. The next step is to become a much larger sports performance center, and you do actually have some lounges in there or some pods and so forth. That's the evolution of that, right? I think in the gym, if you're a big box, small box, if you're a therapy center, if you're a wellness center, for whatever that means today, you have to continue to progress to meet as many people as possible, whether it be me going in for a workout, as if I actually did that, or my mom going in there for a workout, and her having, as we mentioned before, that accessibility to all those modalities, whether she has to key fob in or not. They have to be available to her. So to answer your question, yeah, everyone's going to start moving this direction, and fortunately for us, we'll be ready.
Love that. Mike,
Yeah.
what do you think?
I think it's been around longer than most people give it credit. It hasn't been recognized as a name. And now it's becoming more well-known. The consumer is more aware of it. And we as club owners are becoming more aware of the new things that are coming out to enhance those areas. So before it may have been just two pieces. Now, it's endless. And some of that even carries over into the PT space and some other areas of the club. So yeah, yes, I think it's standard. It's only at what level is it your standard?
Yeah, good point. Good point.
Great point. Awesome. All right. Well, for our attendees today, there's a chat feature on GoToWebinar. I have one more question for our guests, but if you have any questions for them, you want to get those in the chat. I'll see them work through those as best we can. And I do have my email address on the very last slide. So if we don't get to your question and you want to send an email, we can always follow up with you as well. So with that being said, last question from me for this webinar. If Mike, if you if someone came to you and said, you know, I wanna put a wellness space in my business, what would you tell somebody that is ready to do it, ready to commit to the investment?
And I had free reign.
Free reign, what would you tell them?
I would say, give me as much space as possible at the front of the club. I would like an entrance from the outside, street level. I'd like an entrance from inside the club so that I can monetize both sides of it, meaning the general public who just want to come in for wellness and the gym member. And don't be afraid of what you don't know. I would tell anybody, before you let me do what I want to do, here's the 10 places I'm going to send you to go try. And they're your competitors. And I want you to go into their spaces and I want you to get on the stuff. And here's Ursa. And I want you to go to these different booths and get on the stuff and try it. And do yourself a favor. Tell the salesman to leave. Just go in and try to figure out how to do it yourself. Because if you can do it yourself, that means your member can do it themselves.
Yep.
That's what you got to really worry about. If it takes too much of somebody telling you what to do, it's going to be really tough for you to implement that with your members.
That's a huge point. I love that you keep saying, have your staff, have your teammates try it. Like, that is so huge that they have personal stories about the different, you know, wellness and relaxation tools and products that you have. That is awesome. So thank you for that.
Well, listen, you have to believe in this. And I know the older that I've gotten, I know that that side of exercise and my lifestyle, it's important. So the younger generation is training a lot harder than we trained in the clubs in the early days. They're lifting a lot of weights, they're doing a lot of things, and they need recovery. And I think they're trying to understand more of these things and how do they get the benefits out of it. So you've got to believe in it. You've got to try it. You've got to get on it. It's funny when you get all your trainers on this stuff, they're champions of it because they incorporate it into their daily workouts.
Great point. Awesome. All right. A question did come through, and this, if I was answering this, I'd say it would depend. But Mike, what do you think of this one? Do you have a rough idea of the revenue per square foot that a wellness space would bring in?
No, I don't, because we don't know exactly how many people are using the stretching component, meaning the small turf area and the ballet bar. I can monitor how many people use a hydro chair or a hydro lounge. So I would, listen, I'm a big person about tracking data and information. We track all the information about how many people get on a piece of cardio and which ones get used and which ones don't. And that allows us to make changes. And I think that recovery, there's only a couple companies that you can monitor that stuff with. I can do it with wellness brands, but some of them I can't really track on data sheets what's being used all the time. You can go in and count manual hours that something's being used. So I think technology hasn't caught up with that space yet, but I do think it's coming, and we'll be able to say, here's exactly what we're creating out of, not out of the square foot, but out of each corner of it.
Great point. That's awesome. Let me see here. We got a good one. So Cameron asked, what are your, so he works for like a relief and recovery product company. He said, what are your thoughts on gyms offering retail recovery products? And if you're for that, what types of products would you recommend?
So again, this is a 2-club idea. On low cost model clubs, retail is really tough. On high-end brands, retail does very good. Their personal training side does very well. So those products do much better in those settings than they do in a club that it's $10 a month. So if I have a club that's generating $100,000 a month in personal training, it means I have a bunch of engaged trainers versus a club that's generating $15,000 a month. You can see where I have a better audience at that higher end brand. So yes, it does well. You just got to pick the club.
Absolutely. All right, Jacob, I want to hear your feedback on this one. Have you guys installed many relax and recovery areas in country clubs?
I have not installed any. And fortunately for me, I have moved past my installation days. And thank
Or
God.
designed, not necessarily installed, designed.
So right now I have 2 country clubs on my docket to design. One is actually being rendered as we speak. And it is just, again, I don't want to even say just again, but it is an amenity that members are seeing outside of the country club, and they're asking for it to be implemented in their country club. And they want it part of the wellness, or excuse me, they want it part of the, see how I use that word there, Mike? Because gyms used to be called wellness facilities, or at least that's what the logo said on it. So the main gym, they want the wellness area closer to it, right? That's just what I'm being asked. Whether we agree or not, that's what's being asked of us. Instead of them turning the the smaller non-use space down the hall, converted into a wellness space. So to answer your question, yes, currently designing them, and I think that's another market that's gonna blow up,
Cool.
both the vertical market and country clubs.
I have it in a couple of projects I'm working on where they're adding, I just did a redesign of their fitness center and they want to add a relax, recover wellness area to it. And they have a medical component in there already, but they want to have more of that daily offering. And I have another group that I deal with that are coming back now saying, we need these things because we're being asked for it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Great. All right, this is a good one. Do you see cold plunges becoming widely spread? Okay. Do you see a lot of cold plunges in health clubs today? And then the same question goes for cryotherapy chambers. So cold plunges, cryotherapy chambers, are we seeing those in fitness businesses a lot currently?
I mean, I'll give the simple answer, yes. But cryotherapy is an attendant-driven model because there's a lot more to it than just, oh, hey, go do this. Right. Cold plunge is easier from that managed staff member trying to coordinate it, but both of them require details in the build-up process. So cryotherapy, if it's an electric unit, it's where do the condensers go and how do I wire it? And it's got to go outside and it needs cool, and it needs to have a drain in the floor because there's condensation. And then if you look at plunge, it's the same thing. I got to have a water outlet in there, and I've got to have a drain in there. It's got to be accessible to certain areas. You prefer that the floor is tile. So yes, I think that they're both futures of the space. I think plunge is going to be more acceptable because it's a lower cost of entry for the club owner. It's one thing to make a mistake on something that costs $100,000 versus something that costs $10,000. Right. So it's an easier pill to swallow if I made a mistake.
Great point.
Yeah, and those are some mistakes, as Mike's pointing out, that even in the design phase that people ask. I did a design the other day, and they said you forgot to put the cold plunge in, and I said it's in the drawing. It's just surrounded by wood, and it has accessibility to it, and all the egresses are met. And they're like, "Oh, that looks really nice. We thought it was a piece of furniture." And I said, "Well, did you expect it to be like a feeding trough, just some metal and an ice bin by it, or what were you looking for?" Because that would, in a business that has liability insurance, that's going to be a tough one to get past your building inspector. So
yeah,
absolutely. All right, Jacob, what would you tell somebody owner that said, nope, I don't need a wellness space in my business. I don't want it. I'm doing just fine what I'm doing. What would you say?
Oh, well, I can just redraw it into a functional training area. Not a problem.
Okay. Fair.
No, it's, I guess I don't have to sell them on something that they don't want. I mean, really, the first rule of sales is don't sell to someone that is not buying. So
Yep.
their competition down the street is going to put a wellness space in, as we've discussed already. And then two, I would just show them the availability, their options. But I don't have anymore. I don't have to sell them on creating the space. And that goes back to our conversation about you need to commit, as Mike pointed out. You need to believe in the working philosophy of the room, right?
Yeah.
What is your working philosophy of your community? If you haven't wholeheartedly put your staff, yourself, and your working philosophy of your facility into a wellness space, save your dough. Just keep it and keep going, because you're already doing everything right? I mean, why not?
All right, Mike, I'm going to change that question up just a little bit for you. So someone is just, they don't, no, it's a fad. It's going to fade out. They don't want to do it. What would you say?
I say don't. I mean, listen, if you're not committed to it, and if you don't jump in, you won't be successful. So if somebody's already got that mind made up that way, there's nothing wrong with that. Do what you do really well.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing I could tell anybody, whatever the space is, and it could be spinning, it could be yoga, it could be, we do better at, sports performance. Do what you do really well. Do it better than anybody else. And if you want to do recovery, you've got to do it really well. So if you don't want to do that, then don't do it at all.
Great.
Do it equal to the level that you're doing all the other stuff you're doing. And if you can't meet that bar, then your answer is no. Why do it?
Yeah, I love that. Commit to it and do it really well. That's great. Awesome. Well, thank you both so much for the insights that you have shared today. To all of our attendees, thank you for your questions. There were some really good ones. I am sharing my email here, so if you have any other questions, please shoot me an email. I did see some questions come through about revenue calculations and things like that. Shoot those to me in an email, because I think that really, a lot of that depends on how you are going to set up your wellness spaces, how you're going to do the membership plans and things like that. So we're happy to have that conversation with you on a more specific level there. But thank you. We wish you all the best luck in creating your wellness space. Thank you for listening, and we will talk to you next month.
Thank you, Sarah. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks.